Hello and welcome back. So today's video is going to be about disordered eating, and I just want to quickly start with a bit of a clarification that you can have disordered eating without having an eating disorder. Now, I think, to be honest, a lot of people have quite disordered eating, especially young girls and young boys too, actually. It doesn't seem to discriminate in terms of gender. And the reason I want to make that distinction is because I think a lot of people don't think that what they're going through is serious. Now, obviously, disordered eating isn't as serious as an eating disorder, but it's still a problem, and it still can be a huge problem, and it can still impact people's lives in a huge way. So I want to talk about that, and the reason I want to talk about it and the reason I want to make this video in the first place is recently I had a message from an old friend who basically asked me advice about my own disordered eating, and I felt like the response that I gave her might be helpful for other people to hear too. So today I want to talk about my experience a little bit and talk about 5 things that really helped me get through my disordered eating. Now, to give a really quick recap, in the year of 2013 I lost a lot of weight. That was my final year of high school, and that summer between 2013 and 2014 especially, I dropped maybe 15-20 kgs in the space of a couple of months, and then for a good 2 years I was really underweight. So the lowest I was 37 kgs, and to give you a bit of context, I'm 4'11", so I mean, it's not as bad as if I was taller, but I can bench press more than that now, which really puts it into context for me. But basically I was really skinny for a really long time, and you know, kind of in contrast to that, right now I sit pretty comfortably in the late 50 kgs, early 60 kgs. I may have grown a couple of centimeters, but to be honest, I'm probably still 4'11", 148 centimeters, 150 centimeters if I'm being kind to myself. But yeah, I'm pretty short and definitely on the heavier side, and part of that is because I do powerlifting, but part of that is just because this is where my body naturally sits. So the thing is, I realized I had a problem with my eating and my weight pretty early on, but the journey to sorting it out and getting through it was really long. It took 2 years, 3 years. I mean, sometimes I would argue that I'm still kind of going through it, you know. I have days where I look down at myself and I'm like, oh my god, why are your legs so big? And you know, it's one of those things where you have that voice of the eating disorder in your head and you just kind of acknowledge it, hear it, realize it's there, and then push it to the side and continue on with your life, because I'm not going to go back to eating basically nothing, but it certainly takes time. So like I said, today I'm just going to share 5 things that I found really helped me get from a stage, like I said, where I was 37 kgs, felt really guilty about eating anything that I felt was unhealthy, counted calories, weighed things like cabbage, like healthy foods like cabbage, to a stage where I am at now where I kind of exercise whenever I want, and if I don't feel like exercising, I don't. And that's a really good place for me to be at. I'm not saying it's a place that everyone should be at, but not having a bad relationship with food is a huge part of just being happy in life. So I mean, I hope some of the stuff helps. Of course, if you have any questions for me, feel free to just DM me, and I'm always really happy to answer questions and be of as much help as I can, because this was a really difficult time of my life, and I know for a long time I didn't really talk about it much, but I mean, if anything, I probably talk about it too much now. And like I said, if I can help someone get through a similar stage, then that would be really awesome, because you know, I've been there, I know what it's like. Now, before I get started, I want to talk about something that the person who messaged me brought up and I think is really important to talk about, and that's that this person didn't think they were light enough to have an eating disorder. And it is a really interesting thing, because I think it goes back to BMI a lot and how much value both healthcare professionals and the general population put on BMI. I've been looking into things more, and I mean, just a disclaimer, obviously I'm an optometrist, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor. I am definitely not the best person to listen to when it comes to nutrition advice, but the more I have looked into it and the more I've read about these things, the more I have seen lots and lots of healthcare professionals actually saying that, you know, weight maybe isn't as important as we think it is to health. Even things like blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, there are more important factors that we can control. And I think that people are moving, the healthcare community is definitely moving towards a place where we can treat people regardless of their weight, and where weight doesn't have to be the pivotal factor. which I think is really important, because BMI is, I want to say BS, but that's not fair, because it isn't BS, but it's not the best way to determine how healthy someone is. And I know that was definitely true for me. So like I said, the lightest I was 37 kgs. That was underweight for my BMI. But I sat at 40 kgs, not having a menstrual cycle, for a good 2 years, over 2 years. And all throughout that, I wasn't underweight for my BMI. Whereas now, I'm definitely overweight for my BMI. Like 58 kgs, 60 kgs is certainly overweight for 4'11". But I don't know, you can go and look at photos of me on Instagram or meet me in person. I don't think I'm overweight. Not even slightly, I think. I think I used to think I was chubby, but I don't even think that's true anymore. But my point is, it's not the only way to measure health. So if you think you have a problem with food, if you think about food a lot, if you're always stressing over what you should and shouldn't eat, and you don't let yourself eat certain foods, if you're in a cycle of restricting and then binging and restricting and binging, that is disordered eating. It might not be an eating disorder, but it is disordered eating, and it might certainly be you on a path to an eating disorder, which, to be honest, is one of those things that the sooner it's addressed, the better. So yeah, you don't have to be underweight to have an eating disorder. And you know, like I said, if you even suspect it, if you're thinking about it, then follow these tips. And now, since I think I've rambled well and truly enough, and hopefully I said the things that I wanted to say, although to the BMI, I think I'm gonna write an actual post about this and maybe make a video, but yeah, let's get started. So number one, and this is the most important thing, and if you pause this video now and exit out of it because you're sick of my rambling, then that's totally fine. Just take this to heart. Go see a mental health care professional. Eating disorders and disordered eating are a mental health problem. They are a really, really big problem. And you know, I knew I was underweight for a long, long time. My doctors were telling me, the nurses were telling me, my mum was telling me, everyone was telling me I was underweight. My body was telling me, you know, my hair was thin, I lost my period, I had like not a single ounce of libido, but I didn't know how to fix it. And it sounds really funny me saying that, because I think back and I was still exercising 7 days a week plus, I was still eating basically nothing, but like to me, in the cycle of disordered eating that I was in, that seemed normal. And the thing that flipped the switch for me was going to see a counselor. Pretty much after a single session, realized that I had a really poor relationship with food and that I needed to address that. And that was the session where I really began to give myself permission to eat, which is the biggest thing. Now, in terms of accessing mental health here in New Zealand, it's pretty straightforward. You can go to your GP and ask to be referred. If you're at a university, then you should have counsellors on campus that you can go to, and I know for the University of Auckland those appointments are free, which is fantastic. So just be brave, go out there and book it. No problem is too small. I mean, they're not going to turn you down, and worst case scenario, well, there is no worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, nothing changes, and that's fine. You just need to keep working at it. And like I said, you don't have to have really huge problems. You don't have to be really, really skinny. You don't have to be bulimic. You don't have to be vomiting and throwing up. If you think you have a bad relationship with food, even slightly, then I would say that is enough and warrants going to see someone. Number two is get off any and all diets. And the vegan community will hate my guts for saying this, but this includes veganism. I'm vegan. I became vegan after my healing. So when I was really, really light, I wasn't vegan, and at some stage when I was gaining the weight back, I became vegan, not for health reasons at all. I became vegan basically because I watched Cowspiracy and realized that eating meat is really, really bad for the environment. But yeah, if you are vegan because of health and you think it is something that is restricting you and adding to the cycle of you having poor eating habits, then just stop being vegan. Even if it's just temporarily, just stop. and look after yourself, because you are the priority. If you can't look after yourself, then you can't look after the world. You can't be an advocate, whether you're vegan for the animals or for the environment or whatever it is. You can't do that if you're not in a good place mentally and physically. And this goes for all other diets. Honestly, again, not a dietitian, not a nutritionist, not a doctor, but so many diets are absolute rubbish. You know, I know people who are on the keto diet, and you know what? It works for people. Some people lose weight eating keto, but some people also lose weight eating an 80% plus carbohydrate diet. And losing weight, like I said, is perhaps not the crux of great health that we thought it was. And more importantly, the impact that these diets can have on our relationship with food is so much more detrimental. I mean, one example of this is that we know stress is really, really bad for our bodies and for our health. Is it worse for you to have a chocolate bar? Or is it worse for you to really want a chocolate bar, stress about the fact that you can't have one, get upset that you can't have one, let yourself have one eventually anyway because you succumb, and then feel really guilty and stressed because you had one and potentially restrict your calories because you did? It's difficult to answer, but I mean, I would say probably the second is worse out of those two scenarios. So yes, get off any and all diets. Certainly if you're on a diet for a specific reason, then talk to your GP or a medical professional that knows about diet and nutrition before you do anything drastic. But you know, like I said, the thing that really helped me was giving myself permission to eat, and you need to give yourself permission to eat. Number 3 is exercise for pleasure. And what I mean by that is, if you're exercising to punish yourself for eating badly, if you're exercising because you feel like you have to, if you're exercising and you absolutely hate it, then just stop. Don't exercise if you're not having a good time. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be enjoying yourself when you're at the bottom of a 100 kg squat. Of course not. No one is enjoying themselves in that scenario. But I know when I'm about to lift and after I lift, I pretty much most of the time feel really excited and energetic, and it makes me feel good. It's not a punishment, it's something I want to do because I lift weights and exercise for my mental health. And the other thing I guess that I'll say is, if the form of exercise that you're doing doesn't bring you joy, maybe look for other things, whether that be dancing or walking with a friend or doing hikes or listening to a podcast while you run. Whatever it is, find something that brings you pleasure, that brings you joy, and don't beat yourself up about it if life gets in the way and you can't exercise. That's fine. And having a good relationship with your body, with food, and with exercise means that sometimes you are going to push yourself and make yourself work out when you don't want to, but it also means being okay with the fact that some nights you're going to stay in and, you know, eat chocolate and watch Netflix instead of go for that run, and it's not the end of the world. Now, while you're in your eating disorder specifically, like the really hard part, maybe talk to a mental health care professional about this. If it makes you feel better to exercise, then maybe do it, but cut back. I mean, I didn't stop exercising while I was going through this. The biggest gap I've had for not exercising is the summer that's just been, because I was traveling and it felt really odd not to exercise, but like it also felt really good and really liberating, I guess is the word. So, you know, I don't know if I would have been able to mentally handle cutting out exercise completely back when I was really in the thick of it. So I kept going, but I cut it down and focused more on weights. And that's the other thing I want to say. I found it really helpful to do a sport, to do something that was focused on performance. And for me, that was powerlifting. I'm not coordinated at all, so any sports requiring even a tiny bit of hand-eye coordination is a total no-go. But powerlifting and lifting weights doesn't really require that much coordination. And it was really helpful because instead of focusing on the number on the scale, I could focus on the number on my squat bar. And it was me doing something physical that helped me feel really good about myself, that had absolutely nothing or very little to do with my weight, and made me see that my body was able to and was made for more than just looking really skinny and fitting into some BS beauty standard that I, to be honest, will probably never fit into. So yeah, do something that makes you feel good, that makes you feel confident. I know weightlifting has skyrocketed my confidence levels. And mostly do something that you enjoy. And if you're not enjoying it, then maybe it's time to take a pause from what you're doing, take a break, and maybe you'll come back to it, or maybe you'll find another form of exercise that you actually enjoy and that will be your go-to. Also, lifting weights, if you're a girl, does not make you bulky. I just need to say that, okay? Not gonna elaborate. Number 4 is creative outlets. Now, I love writing. If you know me even a little bit, you will know that it's probably one of the first things that I will mention or will come up in conversation. But I also actually really enjoy drawing and, just being artistic in general and making things. And the reason I think this is helpful in recovering from an eating disorder is because I think being creative and doing things with your hands and doing things that utilize a different part of your brain with absolutely no pressure to be good at it. Most of the things I write are complete garbage. Most of my drawings are not very good. My little sister and brother spend a long time making fun of me because I can't do proportions, but I don't care because it feels good to draw and to write, and it's very calming, and it's something I can do with my hands. And writing specifically, sometimes I write about my eating disorder. Sometimes I sit there and challenge myself about these ideals that I'm putting out there. If I'm having a day where I feel really bad about myself and I'm considering not letting myself eat cake, or considering doing something that I know will set me backwards, I will sometimes just write about it, and it makes a huge difference and helps me to pull myself out and helps me to be objective, which is really, really helpful. So yeah, find a creative outlet. You don't have to be good at it, it just has to be something that you enjoy. And I'm always a big advocate to get people writing. Just pick up a pen and paper and just go for it. You could write about the fact that you can't think of anything to write about, and that's still writing, and that will still help calm your mind. And now for the final one, number 5, and this is about social media. So unfollow people that make you feel bad about your body or the way that you eat. Now, I'm gonna start off by saying that includes me. 120%. If I make you feel bad about the way that you look, the way that you eat, if the things that I post are not good for your mental health, then unfollow me. I will not be upset about it. I am actively telling you to do so, because putting ourselves first and putting our mental health first is the most important thing. Now, you may be asking why this is even important, and the reason I think it's important is that social media is supposed to be a good thing. It's supposed to help us, and I think for a lot of people that isn't the case. So for me, I try and cultivate my social media so that it's things I want to see, things that actively bring me joy. Things that don't bring me joy is seeing girls who are beautiful, don't get me wrong, but have bodies that I could never achieve in a million years. Seeing and following people who I know Photoshop and Facetune and do all of that jazz, again, presenting bodies and faces to me that I know I could never achieve. So why am I forcing myself to look at it every day and make myself feel bad? Instead, I choose to follow people that have body types that are realistic to me. For example, someone I follow who does do food and fitness is called Grace Fit, and I don't just follow her because she's short, but it is part of the reason, and that's because even though my body isn't like hers, it's definitely more similar to hers than a lot of other influencer type girls out there. She's on the shorter side and has slightly bigger hips and legs like I do. So, when I see her wearing an outfit, for example, I'm like, I could actually pull that off, instead of seeing someone who's like 5'11", 6 foot with super long legs and thinking A, that outfit would look horrendous on me, and B, there is no way on the face of this planet that I'm ever going to achieve that body type. And I think that goes both ways. Like, if you're a really tall girl and following someone who has like a really big butt, for example, is making you feel bad about yourself, then don't follow someone who looks like that. Because again, even though exercise and diet, you can kind of change how you look a little bit, and weightlifting is actually really good for that, just another plug for weightlifting. But there's an extent to it. I have a decently sized butt, you know, let's be clear about this, I know. But right now, what that part of my body looks like fits into the new beauty standards that women have to abide by. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I lift weights. I lift quite heavy and squat quite heavy, which I'm sure doesn't hurt. And you can certainly build a better butt by doing lots and lots of, you know, really heavy compound movements like that over years and years and years. But it's also genetic for me. I had a bigger butt and bigger glutes even in primary school. I got teased about it in primary school, you know? So it's genetics. Just like I don't have a super flat stomach, I probably never will have a super flat stomach. And again, genetics, because that's where I carry my weight. So yeah, the basic conclusion of that long ramble is don't follow someone if they have an unachievable body, and if that unachievable body makes you feel bad about your own. Now, who else do I really enjoy following? People who have positive ideas about fitness and relationships with, and one of those people is called Dr. Joshua. I don't remember his last name, but I'm gonna put it up on the screen right now, of course. He is awesome. He is a doctor, and he just has really, really clear, non-shaming, open, scientific views about food, and really values the relationships that we have with our food, which a lot of the medical community doesn't yet. He has actively helped my relationship with food. He's actively helped me and encouraged me to question the decisions that I make, which is so, so important. Now, other people that I follow that I find useful are creative people. So I follow heaps of writing accounts. I'm gonna chuck a few on the screen right now. One of them is called Maria. Again, I don't remember her last name, but I'm ordering her book and I'm really, really excited about it. And again, I will make sure that her name is here. She has beautiful writing and watercolor drawings that she posts almost every day, and they bring me such peace and joy. And, you know, writing and reading people's writing and seeing people's art just makes me happy. So, I mean, I'm not saying you should follow people who only do art, or don't follow people that do fitness, but follow people that you're excited to see what they're posting. Whenever Maria posts something, I'm excited to see it. And if someone doesn't make me feel that way, then, you know, maybe I should unfollow them. And that's certainly the conversations that I'm trying to have with myself, because like I said, social media is supposed to make us feel good, and I think it's not achieving that for a lot of people. And I think it is causing more people to have disordered eating. Obviously, I don't have the stats on this. I don't have a scientific paper to back this up. This is just my opinion and my observations. But I think a lot of people won't disagree with me. I don't think this is a wild claim to make. I think constantly seeing perfect bodies, people who are photoshopping, people who just really know their angles, people who might just simply have a body type that is unrealistic for us all the time, if you're kind of in a place where you might not have a great relationship with food already, it's just going to make it a million times worse. So be really savage about who you do and don't follow. So I think that is all for today. How long have I rambled on for? 38 minutes. That isn't bad. I thought I'd ramble on for longer. But yes, I hope you enjoyed that. Just to sum it up really quickly, see a mental health care professional, get off diets, only exercise if it brings you pleasure, have a creative outlet and chase those creative outlets, and only follow people that make you feel good. And, you know, go on an unfollowing spree if you feel like you want to, and just be savage about it. Make yourself happy. So important. I hope you have a lovely morning, day, night, whatever it is at the time that I post this. And yeah, like I said earlier in the video, any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to slide into those DMs. Do it. For once, I am encouraging it. Okay, not for once. I don't actually mind if it's not creepy. Creepy DMs are just weird. It's like, why would you do that? You know, why? Anyway. Until next time, bye. I want to introduce you to my new pot plants. I also have 5 succulents. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 succulents. And this plant, I'm going to name them all. And I need to repot them because I want them to be all in cute pots. And then I'm going to like arrange them nicely on my bookshelf. And I might move my bookshelf so that it's my new background. But I still need to figure out what I want to do with my room. But once I've named them and repotted them into cute stuff, I will show them to you, I promise. I need to come up with a name for her. I've decided that all my pot plants are going to be women, and they're going to be inspiring women. So think Marie Curie, think Kate Shepherd, think Michelle Obama, think like, I don't know, J.K. Rowling. I know she's a bit controversial at the moment, but she's an amazing writer, and you know, let's just ignore the stuff that she says on Twitter. She built a world that brings me complete and utter joy, so I love her for that. But yeah, so I might ask for help naming them, but I will keep you posted. And once I have my bookshelf more set up, I will also maybe just go through what's on my bookshelf. Spoiler, a lot of them are Harry Potter books. I don't actually buy a lot of books, but that's probably going to change now that I have a bookshelf and I'm more settled in a new place. But yeah, books are so important. They bring me such joy, unlike eating disorders, which just make me sad and passionate, and I wish it was something that people didn't have to go through. And yeah, if I could wave a magic wand so that no one had to go through it, I would do it, but obviously we can't do that. But yeah, I'm actually going to stop now because I need to pack and drive for like 2 hours to spend some time with my lovely, beautiful friends who I miss so much. But yeah, peace out. Why did I say peace out?